I had been dating my girlfriend since we were in high school, and we had been together for 8 years when we broke up. I think the reason was something trivial, but a small fight triggered the end of our long relationship. My girlfriend and I were both worried about each other and were even encouraged to get back together, but our stubborn personalities got the better of us and we ended our relationship completely. One day, about 5 years later, I suddenly received a message from my ex-girlfriend, whom I hadn't heard from at all. She said that she wanted to see me after a long time and that she had visited my old apartment, but that it had been demolished and she wanted to know my current address. To be honest, I was glad to get that message, because I hadn't met anyone I liked more than her since I broke up with her. I sent her my address, and we exchanged casual messages, trying to figure out our 5-year gap, and ended the day with a promise that she would visit me at my current apartment that weekend. A few days later, on the appointed day, she came to my house. Although she was a little distant at first, she looked exactly the same as she did when we were dating, and smelled just as good as she did back then. As the time went by, I began to regret breaking up with her. I was getting drunker and drunker, and our relationship was coming back to me. I asked her what was bothering her the most. By the way, why did you call me again so suddenly? She replied,
Well, actually, there's something I need your help with.
I felt nervous at her sudden reluctance, but I tried to keep my composure. She told me that she had to move soon, and she needed my help to clean up her room. Not moving, you mean? You want me to help you clean up your room? I felt a little uncomfortable, but I didn't go into it further. She wanted it to be as soon as possible, so I promised her that I would come to her house tomorrow. I watched her back at the entrance of her apartment building. I was feeling regretful about our breakup and thinking about whether I should ask her if we could start over again tomorrow, when she disappeared. The next day in the evening, I arrived at the apartment where she lived a little earlier than promised. It seemed that they were planning to demolish the building itself, with a sign at the entrance and a no-go sign on the door of each room. I walked up the stairs to her room and reached out my finger to press the doorbell. I reached out to press the doorbell, and the door opened with a squeak. Sorry. I'm a little early, aren't I? The curtains were closed, the lights were off, and she was sitting on the middle of the dark room. What the hell? It's so dark, I can't see anything. Then she turned her back to me, said nothing, and pointed to the left side of the room with her left hand. My eyes were still adjusting to the darkness, but as I looked in the direction she was pointing, I could see a folding door that was probably a toilet or a unit bathroom. What is it? Is there something in there? I took off my shoes, entered the room, and headed in the direction she was pointing, when suddenly a strong, strange smell hit my nose. What the hell is that smell? What's that smell? As I said this, I looked into the room and saw that she was gone. At that moment, I realized everything. Gently, I approached the folding door and pushed the middle part of the door to open it. Inside, a strange odor incomparable to what I had just smelled flooded out, and inside the bathtub, I found her body in a state of disarray. This was the reason why she asked me to help her clean up. I immediately called the police and explained the situation to them, but they didn't believe me more than half the time. Rather, they seemed to suspect that I had killed her and dumped her body, and they persistently questioned me about the circumstances, but I was finally acquitted because the results of the autopsy showed that the cause of her death was illness. The scene and the strong smell are still vividly etched in my mind even after several months have passed since then. However, in the depths of that smell, there was just a little. I felt a little sad that I could also detect a little bit of her scent from that time.
I'm having a hard time right now. I'm being stalked by an ex-boyfriend. First, a little background about the relationship. It was not a happy one. When it began, he was the perfect guy, very nice and polite. Though there were a few red flags, I had ignored them as I was a silly 19-year-old, falling in love for the first time. Gradually he turned verbally abusive. He would imagine situations that never happened, and then call me names for being disloyal in these situations. For example, once he said that he had come to my college on a holiday, and some girls of my zoo class, no girls in my class even knew what he looked like, told him I was too promiscuous. After a few days of this verbal abuse, there would be a honeymoon period when everything would be nice and perfect. Again, after a few months, the abuses would start. Gradually, this time interval between abusive periods began to reduce. He had alienated me from my friends and I used to think I had nobody but him. Finally I grew tired of tolerating this abuse silently, and told everything to one of his close friends. He used to respect this friend, and often took his advice. However, this backfired, and he started calling my close friends and said nasty untruthful things as revenge. He also completely stopped treating me like a person and used nasty words every time he talked to me. By this time I was terrified of him. He had seized my phone multiple times and he had the phone numbers of my parents. Being from a conservative family, NHY parents would be very disappointed in me if they ever came to know about this relationship. I could not bear to do that to my aged father. I was scared that if I left him, he would call my parents and tell them awful things about me. Finally, one day, completely out of the blue, he called me and said he wanted to break up. He said he had found another girlfriend, and wanted nothing to do with me. The 2 years of abuse was finally coming to an end. What a relief it was. But my happiness was short-lived. A few days after the breakup, he started blackmailing me. For no good reason. He told me to send nude photos of myself, and threatened to tell my parents about the relationship if I didn't. Thus began the most horrible time of my life. I was terrified of my phone. Every day he had a new demand, and new threats. He called this guy of my class and told him we had sex. People spread rumors about me in college. Once when I was at a friend's flat working on our final year project, he called me some 30 to 40 times. I told him I was at somebody else's house and couldn't talk. He ordered me to leave the house immediately. When I stopped picking up, he found the phone number of another guy in my project by calling up some other people, and called him instead. He even found somebody working in the same company as my elder brother and used that person to get my brother's phone number. Most people advised me to confess everything to my family, but they didn't understand my family situation. They wouldn't understand. I would have lost my independence and they would have never trusted me again. Nothing is more important to me. Meanwhile, he asked me to meet him one evening. I was too scared to refuse. He took me to a dark alley and forcibly groped me. I tried to fight, but he was too strong. I ran away, and he followed. I was too embarrassed to create a scene, and quietly went home. I decided never to meet him again, come hell or high water. I blocked him everywhere and there was some peace for about 4 months. Now he has started calling every weekend. He keeps calling and texting from different numbers until I pick up. His calls alternate between threats and begs. 1 minute he promises to take revenge for leaving him, and the next he promises to mend his ways and begs me to meet him again. I have cried, begged, screamed, and repeated the words, "Stop calling me," about 100 times, but he doesn't stop. Every week comes a point when he says he won't disturb me again, and he calls again the following week. Today he called and asked me to marry him. Since I just passed college, he is willing to wait for 3 to 4 years, and if I am still not married to him he vowed to kidnap me. I do not know where this will go. I am hoping he will stop when he realizes there is no future. Or maybe I am being just as naive as was 3 years ago.
Once there was a young girl living in a small town. Sonia studied at college, rented a room in a 5-story house, on the 5th floor. She studied perfectly. But she didn't have any friends, she didn't date anyone. She didn't have a boyfriend. One unfavorable day, Sonia was walking home late at night, as if a taxi had jumped out of nowhere. The car lost traction and ran over her. Sonia miraculously survived. She got a lot of bruises and broke her leg. The taxi driver and passenger died on the spot. Ambulance and police arrived quickly, took Sonia to the hospital. A few days later, Sonia was discharged, but her leg was still in a cast. She could not go to school. Because of the cast, Sonia was forced to stay at home and take her studies home. All day long she sat at home at the computer, sometimes went out on the balcony to distract herself from the computer. One evening she received a text message on her phone.
Hi, let us get acquainted.
Sonia was scared and therefore decided not to answer the SMS. The next day she was sitting at the computer. The text message that was sent to her did not leave her head. Sonia decided to write to a stranger.
Hello, who are you?
Hello, I am Victor. And you?
Sonia. Where did you get my phone number from?
I just typed at random, decided to write.
They talked for a long time, almost all night. All the next day Sonia thought about Victor. She really liked him as an interlocutor. She was interested in communicating with him. Day after day they got used to each other. Finally, Sonia became curious about what Victor looks like.
Please send me your photos.
Okay, just you first.
Sonia immediately took a picture of herself and sent it to Victor's number. A few seconds later the answer came.
You're pretty, very pretty.
Sonia was pleased.
Well, now it's your turn.
Sonia received an MMS on the phone. She opened it, but there was a photo of her that she sent to Victor.
It's not fair, it's my photo, not yours.
But take a closer look, I am behind you.
Sonia's hair stood on end with horror. She looked around, but there was no one there. We should not communicate anymore, Sonia wrote and deleted Victor's number. She dropped her phone and went to bed. The next day Sonia received a text message. Hello. The text message was from Victor and Sonia just ignored the message. After about 20 minutes, the second message came. Are you ignoring me? But Sonia did not answer. She did not want to communicate with him. No more text messages came from him that day. For the next 3 days, not a single text message came. Sonia was glad that Victor had left her alone. 2 days later, Sonia received a message on the phone. Hello. Sonia was not scared. She thought that Victor had left her behind. She decided to write to him.
What do you need?
I want to talk to you. Don't you want to?
No, I don't want to. Leave me alone.
You better not piss me off, Sonia. Don't be so rude to me.
Don't write to me. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you.
I wanted to be nice, but apparently it won't work.
Sonia became scared. She blacklisted Victor's number. She thought she got rid of the annoying interlocutor. But I was wrong. That afternoon, in the evening, Sonia sat on the balcony and admired the city. Suddenly a message came to the phone. Good evening. What are you doing? A chill ran down Sonia's spine. She felt scared, because she had blacklisted Victor.
What do you need?
Can I come to visit you?
No, I'm not at home, I'm at a friend's.
Why are you lying?
I'm not lying.
You relaying. You don't have any girlfriends. And by the way, I am standing in front of your house.
Sonia looked down, but there was no one there. She got scared. She left the balcony and locked the door.
I've already gone to bed. Leave.
But I had already entered the entrance.
Sonia became very scared. A few seconds later, another SMS came.
I am already on the 5th floor. I am going to your door. Open the doors for me.
Sonia rushed to the doors and locked them. She began to look through the peephole. There was silence in the corridor. Suddenly, all the lights in the corridor went out. She got a text message.
I am already in your apartment.
And the lights went out in the room abruptly. Sonia began to shine the phone. She walked across the room, stopped at the balcony. Sonia was lighting up the room, turned around and suddenly a terrible look from the darkness. Out of fear, she could not resist and fell from the balcony of the 5th floor. Crashed to death. Her phone was lying next to her. The same photo taken for Victor was displayed on the phone. Sonia was sitting in the photo, and Victor, the same guy who died in the accident, was sitting behind her in a taxi.